Okay, I hope you can hear me. My heater's running. So to change this hub out, we have to get our four-wheel drive locking hubs off. Those got to come off. I believe that's a T27 maybe. The caliper bracket have to come off. Then the rotor comes off. And after that we got some, I believe there's a C-clip in here for the drive shaft. An internal snap ring. And then back in the back will be the 4 nuts for the wheel bearing assembly. So let me get this off, we'll get going. Okay, so first things first, we'll start with the caliper bolts, which, hang on, let me get these out. Whew, man, strong like bolt. Who needs a wrench? Okay, we're gonna pop this caliper out of here and see what brake pads look like. So let me get that out of here. Well, I imagine them brake pads are 60% left anyways. There's no sense replacing them. However, the slides are all rusted up, so we'll have to get them brackets off, get them cleaned up so they'll slide good. Now we'll see if that piston, if these 2 pistons will go back in easy. If they do, then we don't have to fool with the caliper. So this is a tool I use to spread the caliper or put the pistons back in. And sometimes, you know, in trucks, it just won't open up wide enough, so I just add this brass punch in there and then just give it a crank. See how easy it goes in. And you got 2 pistons going in, they're pretty good size, so it might take a little bit more effort than a car, but it shouldn't be too god-awful horrible. We'll see how easy that goes in, and next we'll get on that bracket. Get on these caliper bolts here. Yep. Yep, there we go. That's what I like to use for caliper bolts. Nice, what's that, 24 inch? I don't know. I think it's 24 inch ratchet. Looks like 2 foot. Flex head. It's a champion. Okay, the caliper bracket's off. Let me show you what we got here. Can you see that? That's where the brake pads sit, and obviously they're not moving, so they're really tough coming out, and the slides are just fine. They move in and out good, so we'll clean them up real good, and then before we put it all back together, we'll clean them up and we'll get never sees in there. So next is the rotor, and a lot of people will take and smack right in here with a hammer, which works very, very well, except for when the hub's here. It's kind of in the way. It makes it really difficult, and I don't want to crack that because I believe that's probably an aluminum magnesium mix of some sort. Who knows? Fragile is the word. So I'm going to take and hit it right here, but I'm going to use the air hammer with a flat bit in the end. So plug your ears. You don't want to hear that. Alright, so a few whacks with the old air hammer makes this a little bit easier. Man, there's a lot of rust on the inside of this. See that getting stuck? This is on that flange that the rotor sits on. People in the south are lucky. I'll have to deal with this rust. Look at that. That's the crap that was holding it from coming out. The buildup right in here, all the way around it. Look at that. Horrible, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I've seen worse.
You have seen worse. You've seen it all.
I don't know about that.
You are the mechanic
whatever.
around here. Everybody knows you do all the work.
No, I don't.
Yeah. Alright, let me get this out of here. Alright, so we're on the torque bits here. I'm trying to find a size for you. T27. That's what it is. T27. Take all three of these out. You see my bolt bin over here? Because,
The box.
yeah. Yeah, if I don't throw my bolts in there, guaranteed I will lose one. This is one of the few things I own in Mac Tools. It's actually a gasket scraper. But it works so nice for this because it's a nice wide edge. Spreads that load out pretty easy, pretty nice. There's a pin in here. You see how the one part's stuck and it'll wiggle? There's a dowel pin that goes in here. There she is. See it? Right there. So we've never had these apart on this truck. And the hub just came apart in two pieces. So this is supposed to kind of come out with the other one. See how it broke? So we'll be putting hubs on this. These clips right here, you see how all these are broken? I just broke another one. See, that one's broke. Can you see that? Those are supposed to hook on the back of this, right in here, and come out at the same time, but as you can see, it's had an invasion of rust, so it's probably not going to be worth a crap. Alright, let me work on getting this out. That look a little suspicious to anybody? Looks like somebody's been using channel locks or pliers to turn that, which would explain why the hub's coming apart in pieces. It's all rusted apart, falling apart in there. So we're gonna just take and pop it out. Ain't no good, and just turn it a little bit. Keep working it out. It'll take a little while. Well, that's alright. Boy, it's in there. Alright, let me get it out of there with two hands. That's about got it out. There it is. So the plastic cage is all busted up. And it used to come like this. Then there was that collar one in there. And then there was this collar. And a spring. And a vacuum seal. That pull vacuum on it and engage it. But the collar that holds the rubber diaphragm to the rest of the hub rusted away. So there's the four-wheel drive failure. Now the next thing is we got the hub out, the four-wheel drive locking hub, and next, you see that snap ring back there? That's what's next. And this is where it pays to have good snap ring pliers, because that can be a pickle. Let me grab a set, I'll show you what I mean. Success. It is so nice to have the right tools. I've fought this on so many trucks. I'm telling you guys, it pays to have the right tools. You don't have to have snap-on, you just got to have the right one for the job. Okay guys, next thing is I want to get this ABS sensor out of here. It's a Allen headed bolt, and we're going to take it loose, pop it out of here, and then slide it back through this dust plate out of our way. Be careful, sometimes it gets stuck. You know, speaking of that, just remind me, you know, everybody has their favorite ratchet. This is my favorite snap-on ratchet. It's a flex head, offset handle, and I got to tell you, this is exactly why it's one of my favorites. You get something that's, you know, fairly loose. Once it's loose, it's kind of, you don't have to ratchet anymore, which I really like. I like a flex head ratchet. I like to have, you know, fixed head too, but these things are pretty cool. What size is that? I don't remember. I think it's like a 5 millimeter Allen is what that is. All right, that's off. Now we're ready to get we'll get this popped out of here, and we'll get the hub out. This can be kind of tricky. I kind of wiggle it back and forth and pull and get it out of there. So let me work on that. Okay, we're ready to get the bearing out. Now, every time I do this, that hub fights me. It's usually rusted in here. We live in the Rust Belt, that's what we got. It usually fights me coming out, so what I do is I take, an appropriate size persuading device, and I smack the hub a few times each way this way, you know, like with some real force, enough to crack it loose in this area, and then I spray it with PV Blaster. And in this case, it's lunchtime, so I'm going to spray it, let it soak. I sprayed it front and back both. Let it soak while I go have some lunch. When I come back, hopefully it won't be quite as hard to get off, but we will see. Okay, so soaking it while I had lunch worked out pretty well, because then I just came in here and hit it a few times and it separated pretty nicely. Now I'll still have to tap it out because it's broke free, but it's not out. But hey lady, come here a minute. Let's have the camera lady do this. It's coming, and if this won't do it, we'll have to get the big hammer. Look, we get to even reuse the dust shield, and there it is. That's the unitized bearing. That's the thing that's making all that racket. Can you hear it? And then we'll take and clean all this up. And if you guys don't know, your four-wheel drive works by this seal back here. This is the seal that lets vacuum come through to the automatic hub that goes in the end of that. So that's out. We need to get this off next. So let me get the cotter pin out and get it loose, and we'll knock that sucker out of there. You can see how loose the ball joint is, but this part is still tight. It's not moving. Alright, so the cotter pin wouldn't come out, which I didn't really care because we're replacing it. So I just cut the ends off as close as I could, put a socket on it and backed it off. It's just fine. And now we got to get this tapered tie rod out of this knuckle. And for that, we use a little bit of persuasion. Just took one more smack and it come off. But you can see how much plays in that thing. You can see it moving up and down. She's worn out, so it's popped loose. Now I got to work on that band there, and I've already soaked it in PV Blaster. So I'll find a way to hang it up, and I guess we'll use a double pipe wrench deal. We'll see if we can get it off. Okay, let's see if we can get it out of here. Alright, so I took this band clamp loose here, and I've already sprayed this end with PV Blaster, but you see the slots in here? What I want is to spray PV Blaster in here, and I have the drag link, or yeah, I guess it'd be the drag link, going downhill so that when I spray it, it actually gets into the threads. That's the hope, anyways, because I use a lot of PV Blaster, as you can imagine. Stuff is rusty, and everybody's got their preference, what they like to use. I use PV Blaster. Seems to work pretty well, but I'm gonna let that soak a while, and I'll get my measurement from the end of that collar to the center of that grease fitting, and that'll get me close until we get to the line. So I'm get my measurement, we'll let that soak. I'm gonna start checking axle joint, make sure it's okay. I don't want to go this far and then find out it's got a bad joint. So we'll look at that real quick. So let me get on it. Alright, this is the back side of the bearing. You see right here. It's not showing up well, but that's metal, and I just scooped it out of here, and that's what it is, that bearing coming apart. So the full drive actuator was getting vacuum into the cavity, so that seal's probably still good. Now we need to check those. Well, I've already checked it, but to check the axle joint in here, what I do is try and do it with my hand here. I grab a hold of the axle out here in the front, and I want to turn it back and forth while I hold the other half, and then check for any play in the caps, which there isn't. And then I recheck the ball joints again, and they're really tight on here. So they're greasable. They may have been changed before, we don't know. But alright, tie rod's out, this side's out, I'm ready to go to the other side. Okay, so this caliper was pretty tough to get the pistons to go in, and it's still kind of dragging, but I can see why the brake pads are hanging up in the slides just like the other side. So I'm going to take my handy, so we're just going to knock these out. See, that's going to be a problem. Just so you know, this shouldn't be like this. Yeah. Rust. You see that? That's a problem. So, you know, this is kind of a tough thing to decide what to do. I mean, it isn't for me, because if it was me, I'd put calipers, pads, hardware, and I guess turn these rotors, because these are 3/4 ton rotors. They're not cheap, but that's what I would do. I think Bren probably will want to clean the slides up, replace this caliper if it's absolutely necessary, which once I get a pad up in here, I'll take my tool and see how it goes in. But again, just rust. Beautiful Ohio. I mean, there's plenty of pad left on these, lining on the brake pad. You can see how thick it is. It was stuck. And when I was driving this, if you remember earlier in the video, I could feel it pulling to the right, and when I hit the brakes, it would pull a little bit more. So let me get this knocked out, get these brackets out of here so we can clean them up and see where we end up. Alright, so this confirms what I was telling you. You see how the rust buildups right there? That's what the brake pad was, and it couldn't move either way. I mean, I had to beat them out of there. And you may think I should have just taken the bracket off and tapped them out that way, but I find a lot of times it's easier to tap them things out when they're mounted to something stationary. So it's just as easy to knock them out there. So, yeah, it's just some condensation from being cold. Anyways, let's get that bracket off both the slides. The slides are plenty free. It bottoms out, comes out all the way. Same up here. So we'll just get them off. Another thing is, you know, I don't use a wire wheel on this, because most time what ends up doing is you're just shining up rust. You know, I can actually feel where the rust goes uphill right on this ledge here. So I use a little different method, get that cleaned out of there so it's flat. I don't use a wire wheel. I like to use a file, because then I can use a flat file and get it real nice. So let me get it off. Alright, this side's apart. So I was inspecting the axle joint here. Can you see that missing part of the cap there? Hold that light. You see this part right here that's missing? Watch the axle joint. So we need to replace that. And that means we got to take the hub off, take the rotor off, take that bearing out, and I don't know about you guys, if the other bearing's bad, this one probably isn't far behind. These aren't cheap hubs. They're $100 and some bucks a piece if I remember right. So what I think we need to do is put 2 hubs, 4-wheel drive lockout hubs, 2 calipers, because that one's not going in real fast or real good either. 2 calipers, 2 hub bearings, 2 lockout hubs, and axle joints. That's what we need to do. So I'll get some parts together, and I'm going to get this the rest of the way apart, and we'll bring it back once we got our parts to put her back together. Alright, you pull this out. This seal is part of the vacuum system for the automatic hubs. It goes in here, and I bring it out with it. I don't know there's another way, and I destroy it every time, so I just replace them. They're not cheap, but it's worth it. But we'll also replace this with the newer style. This is a dust seal for the end of the axle tube. We'll replace that too. And I think we just found this problem. Remember in the first video he said that it would wander one way, he'd overcorrect, and then it would wander this way and then go that way, you know, until he turned it again, then it would stay. It had what we call memory steer. So I think we just found it. You see the axle joint works just fine this way, but it's locked up this way, and I can't even move it. So that's probably what wore the tie rod out trying to move this wheel. But you can see how that's broken there. I'm sure that's from it trying and smacking because it's locked up. And this is a greasable joint. Either he didn't get it greased or it was in bad shape when we first put it together, you know, internally, and we didn't know, because we checked all that stuff because you make sure it was right. So we're going to go ahead and replace these axle joints, both hub bearings, this seal, the vacuum seal, this seal, and the same thing on the other side. We're going to go ahead and get 2 new calipers, because this one's hanging up, and we're going to reuse the brake pads, and we're going to probably machine the rotors, because we're going to run into some money. If this was my truck, I would probably do it all. I would put rotors, calipers, pads, hardware, wheel bearings, seals, axle joints. I'd just do it all. But it's Brandon's, and it's his call. I mean, he's not gonna not make it safe to save money. That's not gonna happen. But the brake pads still have tons of lining left on them. The rotors should be able to be machined, and the axle joints, these aren't expensive. The bigger expense is this seal. This seal costs more money than this axle joint. This is a pretty costly seal, but it is what it is. And when we took this apart, did we show that this bearing's bad? It's got rough spots in it too, so that's why we're replacing that. So we're almost at a point where we're going to rebuild the axle. There's only 2 more seals that are on the inside of the differential next to the actual differential itself, and the fluids. So, but this is what he wants to do. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to go get some parts tomorrow. Today's Sunday, so tomorrow we'll get parts. Unfortunately, this looks like it's going to be a 3-part series now, 3 or 4, because I'm going to have to press out all the joints. Good thing is this has Moog ball joints, and I can see it on the ball joint cups, the rubbers here. They say Moog on them, so they've been replaced, which is cool. So that's where we're going to leave it. Guys, we'll bring you back once we got parts and we're starting to go back together. So if you like what we're doing, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, and what's that other one? What's that other thing I said?
Leave your comments below.
Yeah.
Please.
Huh?
Please.
Please. Yeah. That's from the boss. Please. Alright guys, catch you on the next one.